Poverty. Poverty is one of the most basic questions that social scientists grapple with. To begin to answer those questions and really consider poverty in a scientific way, we have to have a clear understanding of exactly what we mean by poverty. There are a lot of different ways to think about it, a lot of different definitions, and different research will do different things with this concept. But a good place to start is with these two ideas: absolute poverty and relative poverty. Now, absolute poverty is what we tend to think we're talking about when we use the word poor or poverty, even if maybe we're really talking about something else. Usually when we use the word poor, we mean that we don't have enough money to buy a certain thing. With absolute poverty, we're in a condition in which we have difficulty obtaining the minimum requirements to sustain a healthy existence. So the things that we can't buy are the most basic, fundamental things we need to sustain life. This is more than just living paycheck to paycheck and worrying about paying for your cell phone or something like that. This is a situation in which a very small stress or change can actually become life-threatening. So, for example, say you miss an electrical payment and they turn the heat off, and so your house becomes freezing and you get sick because of the cold. Or you have to choose between paying the gas and paying for nutritional food, and so you become sick because of malnourishment. In absolute poverty, death or serious illness from starvation, dehydration, and exposure becomes a real possibility. This is poverty at its lowest level, where life can actually be endangered. Compare that now to relative poverty. This is poverty that's defined by the living standards of the majority in a society. And while we think we're talking about absolute poverty when we use the poverty, we're often really talking about relative poverty. This is poverty based on comparison to others. How much do you have when compared to others in your society? An example in the United States is that most people in the U.S. have a car, have a cell phone, and have a TV in their homes. If you don't have the money to own one of those things, you can't buy a TV, you can't pay for a car, you're going to feel like you're poor, even if you're not in a life-threatening situation. Now, relative poverty may seem like it's a little bit trivial. It's about not having luxuries or other things that you want to have to be like your friends, but it has a more serious side that we'll get to in just a second. The question I want to address now is, where's the line between relative poverty and absolute poverty? Where does one end and the other begin? One way that the United States government has measured poverty historically is with this concept of the poverty line. This was developed in the 1950s and 60s as a way to address and consider and scientifically look at poverty for the purpose of policy making. The poverty line is based on an income equal to 3 times the cost of a nutritionally adequate diet. So what you do is you look at how much food costs. Here's your grocery bag, as you can see. You multiply the cost of that grocery bag by 3, and that equals the poverty line. So if you make more money than that, then you are considered not poor. If you make less money, then you are considered to be in poverty. Now, the United States government and other social scientists have adapted this and changed this to account for factors like number of children, housing costs, change in food costs, and so on and so forth. As time has gone on, more Americans spend a larger percentage of their income on housing than they did traditionally on food. Medicine, for example, if you're an older person or you have a medical condition, medicine can take up a huge portion of your budget. Clean water is something we often take for granted in the United States, but there are people all around the world, in the United States as well, that die every day because of issues that could be solved by access to clean water and basic plumbing, right, sewer. Transportation may seem like a luxury. Your car's broken down, so you have to walk to work. But if your transportation problems keep you from coming to work and getting a job, then a relative poverty situation quickly can turn into an absolute poverty situation. The same is true with communication. The internet or a smartphone may seem like a luxury until you realize that to get a job you have to have an internet connection. Even the simplest entry-level jobs require online applications. So relative poverty limits your opportunities and can very quickly sometimes become absolute poverty. There are a lot of different ways to look at poverty. These are just a couple of examples. But there's one thing I think that all measures of poverty and all experiences of being poor have in common. Poverty is a condition that affects the ways you're able to participate in your society. We gave examples with the internet or transportation. And this is more than just not being able to look like your friends by having the same clothes or a nice car. These are conditions that maybe limit your access to voting. I have to work all day on the day that voting booths are open, and I don't have time to get there because I have to pay for food and other things. Right? Poverty is a condition that changes your opportunities to participate in an equal footing within your society. And poverty tends to negatively influence life chances. It makes it harder to go to school, it makes it harder to stay healthy, and it can make it harder to get a good job if you don't have time to search for a job or go to job interviews or drive to work in the neighboring city, for example. Poverty, I think, is best understood as a condition that changes how you participate in society in a negative way. Thanks for watching.